should be memorized. So the right streaming is happening, sorry. Okay, so you're seeing just one screen, correct? Okay, good. Okay, we'll get started. Om. 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 Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Mavit Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, who'd like to start with the Bhagavad Gita chanting? Suvarna, you want to do the first one?
Yeah. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Grahitam Purana Muninam Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamrita Varshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashaധ്യായിനിം Ambatvam anusandadami Bhagavad-gite bhavatveshini.
Namostu Devyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullarvindhaya Dabhatra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajwalito Jnanamayah Pratibha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraikapanaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Geetamrutatuhe Namaha.
Vasudeva Sudam Devam Kamshacharuramartanam Devahi Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagatkurum.
Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam saranam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma sucha.
Very good. Thank you. So we are going to be doing today the last verse of chapter 11, and then we will do a summary of the whole chapter. Not sure if we'll have time to do the whole chanting, but what I thought is I'll record the chanting and send it to whoever would like to have the chanting. So I will record that part of it. So we will see how much we can actually do today. So we did this last time. So let's get straight to just a little bit of review of the last 5 shlokas. Shloka number 50 we saw was basically about where Sanjaya is now saying that, having told Arjuna that it's a very difficult thing for anybody to visualize, like all of us, ordinary mortals, it's very difficult to visualize the whole Vishwarupa. So Lord Krishna, what does he do? He actually withdraws himself into his normal form, what Arjuna has always been very familiar with. And this is the normal form of the Yadava Sri Krishna. And then he consoles him, don't be afraid. After all, who am I? I'm I'm everything to you. I'm like your parent. So don't even bother about anything else. Just don't cry. So Ashwasayam Asacha Beatam, he says, he just consoles this frightened Arjuna. So that is where, we saw this. And then in 51 is basically starts, where Arjuna wants to, Arjuna is now speaking back to Krishna, just to basically say that, I have seen this, having seen this human form, O Krishna, I'm now relieved and I'm totally composed. And I feel that, okay, we are back to where we started. So it basically shows that, this whole climb to the understanding really our true self is kind of frightening even for us, because it's like the security blanket what we have. When I say the security blanket, it's our own koshas, our own physical body, our role that we play, all the objects in front of us. you know it's very comforting for us. We don't want to give that up. Now, are we really giving that up in the sense of, kind of running away to Himalayas, all that? No, it's actually, we are making that transition within our own self to understand that I'm actually beyond all the roles, beyond this physical body, to really understanding that supreme self, who I am. And that part of it is what Sri Krishna, in this last almost 50 shlokas, is bringing Arjuna to understand that you are not just this finite body, you are this infinite self, you are that infinite, you are the infinite in each and every one. And that's the Vishwarupa Darshanam that Krishna was trying to show who he was. And in and through, of course, showing that even Arjuna, you are that. But Arjuna is unable to take it. And therefore, he's asking, go back to yourself. That is who I am. So this essentially shows, how ready are we in this path of spirituality to give up the notions in our mind, right? So that's why, he says, Idanim asmi samrita prakritim prakritim gataha. So basically, Arjuna is finally happy that having seen this, I'm quite composed. I'm quite okay with where you're taking me to. So this transitions now to the last 4 shlokas, which is actually again a segue into chapter 12. So Krishna has done everything he wants to. He has shown him the cosmic vision, and this theme of literally in chapter 7 through 11, this theme of, one would say, the Saguna Bhakti, which is having shown Lord Krishna's form in material forms, Saguna, and ultimately towards the end, where even Arjuna is able to grasp that, the Nirguna aspect of Krishna. So having introduced these two things, now the segue where Krishna is taking us to is he wants us to truly understand what is Bhakti Yoga. In many ways, Bhakti Yoga is a very comforting, calming aspect where I do not have to tax my mind too much. I do not have to tax my physical body too much in doing Karma Yoga. But of course, when you come to the last shloka, you will understand how he starts off with Karma Yoga as a form of Bhakti Yoga. So in all this Bhakti Yoga, which is just complete, having understood the Vishwarupa, the idea of surrender, that part is where, we reviewed it last time in 70 from 52, where Krishna is now saying that, yes, it is very hard. Sudur darsham, it's very, very hard, I know, Arjuna, for you to see me, what now you have seen. Okay. And then he says that, I know you must be thinking that the lords of the heavens like Indra, Varuna, and all of them, they probably know me as such, but not really. Even for them, they have not really seen this Vishwarupa of who I am. So um, in 53, again, Krishna really lists all the tools that we are using today to take us from where we are in this materialistic world, doing our jobs and trying to see how this happiness, this temporary happiness that I'm getting from my job, from my relationships and everything, and how uh, through in and through all the jobs, through the life that we're leading, how we employ certain tools, and we think by employing those tools that I have now done what I want to please the gods to help me get more happiness, correct? And what are those tools? I mean, of course, this was written long time ago, and so the word sacrifices and everything is given. But we can interpret that even for today's world, really on what we do when we say go to a temple, for example, or when I have a certain event in my house, the birthday of my grandchild or anything where, we may, uh, in those days, they would actually do annadanam and everything. But today, what we do is we do a party, right? In some ways, you can see the translation. So, what Lord Krishna is saying here is, Naham Vedai na tapasa. So, again, austerity or tapas is one form by we think is a tool of spirituality which the gods will be pleased, right? So Krishna is trying to say this, yes, of course you have to do all this because that allows one to get out of the aham bhava. We are always in the world, we do things thinking that, I am doing it, or whatever I do, I'm doing it for me. So this aham and mama part of it. So here he's saying, Naham Vedai na tapasa. Yes, that doesn't mean that I should not read the Vedas. The Vedas are the ways that I actually know how to understand my purpose of life and to go beyond it. But that by itself is not enough. And then austerity, which is the tapas, and then na danena, nor by sacrifice and nor by ijaya. So neither by giving any kind of gifts, nor by any kind of sacrifice, shakya evam vidu drashtum, you can ever see me like the way I have given you this vision, right? So Veda evam vidha, so na danena, na ijaya, we did this last time, right? So then in shloka, finally, the penultimate shloka 54, he finally says that, Krishna, because you have been focused only on me, okay, bhaktya tu ananya shakyaha, okay, you have given this complete devotion to me, and that is the only way you can actually see me. And he gives the three things here, which is jnatum, which is, of course, by complete understanding. It's not by blind faith. And that's why bhakti is not a blind faith. It is definitely the precursor to it is having a complete understanding of really my own true self. Who is that, the Tattvam Asi aspect, Who is that God and where does he live? How does he look? All this Nyatum, I need to know. And then Drashtum, I have now seen, been known and seen in reality. And then finally Praveshtum, and then I enter. So in many ways, it's you can equate it to Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, or, how way you want to look at it. But these three things he finally says is the most important. So most important is Ananya Bhaktya, complete devotion and understanding that he and he alone is everywhere, Bhaktya ananya shakya Jnatum drashtum cha tatvena praveshtum na parantapa. And we also talked about how the defects of the world today are, is the fact that we are always on a swing. Some days are great, some days not so great. And but we constantly are looking to assuming that everything will be great all the time. Like even when I think about what is happening in Pahalgam now, right? India is facing this situation. It just came out of a blue, but did it really come out of a blue? Something was always brewing, and now, the effect of it is seen in the last couple of days here, what we're going through. So that's the pair of opposites. And then our life is always something where I'm trying to fulfill something, whether it's fulfillment of wanting to be the director in a company, or fulfillment of having a child, fulfillment of, buying a house. All these things is how we think our life is all about, right? But that is at a higher level. We need to go beyond it, and that's the defect that he's talking here. And ultimately, this addiction, as a terminology, of course, maybe long time ago it could have been addiction to food and food alone or something. But now the addiction has gone to the levels of our senses, our minds, with all the all the things that internet has opened to us, has now, become an addiction. I mean, even addiction to going to various websites to look for some knowledge, what we have at a higher level, can be an addiction. So we have to go even beyond that. If I truly know who I am, then I don't need anything else for me to get fulfilled. So that was the shloka 54. So now coming to the most beautiful shloka of this chapter, which is, I mean, I cannot tell you how much this is so, it really segues so beautifully into chapter 12. And chapter 12 being pure bhakti and devotion, is, so in many ways, you can look at this shloka as sort of a reward for studying probably the second longest chapter. The longest chapter in Bhagavad Gita is chapter 2, which is, it has 72 shlokas, 71 or 72 shlokas. This one has about 55. And so this shloka, actually, Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya considers this to be the most essence of the entire Bhagavad Gita, And he says Ishvara can only be obtained if I think about like 5 important principles, One is starting with Karma Yoga. And of course, when we think about Karma Yoga, we always immediately think about Karmani Vadikaraste Ma Paleshu Kadachana, do your duty, don't expect any results and everything. But in a sense, we saw in the chapter 11 why Karma Yoga is needed, because he wanted to convince Arjuna. But more importantly, Karma Yoga is basically performing all the actions not for myself, but for that Lord, for Ishvara, right? So that is one of the guiding principles you will see in this shloka, which is coming up. Second thing is, in and through everything I do, it is again keeping Ishvara as a goal. So everything, for example, if I'm doing an action saying that I'm doing this, hoping that my son will eat the food or my grandson will eat the food and be healthy, think about that. My grandson is nothing but Ishvara in that form. So I'm doing it for Ishvara. Ultimate goal is Ishvara. Third thing is observing single pointed Ananya Bhakti, which is what in chapter shloka number 54 he says, that having single pointed devotion, and then remaining free from any kind of world attachments, the addiction that we talked about, and finally not to have any kind of likes and dislikes, raga dvesha. So these 5 things is what we will see in this last shloka. Mat karma krit mat paramaha. Mat karma krit mat paramaha. Madbhakta Sangha Varjitaha. Madbhakta Sangha Varjitaha. Nirvaira Sarva Bhuteshu. Nirvaira Sarva Bhuteshu. Yasamameti Pandava. Yasamameti Pandava. So you can see how he starts off with Karma Yoga, but the change, the way we are looking at it now is having gone, you can see how, again, how Karma Yoga is being refined and refined and refined, the meaning of Karma Yoga here. So here he's saying Karma Yoga is that where any action I'm doing, I am doing it for that Supreme Lord, Ishvara. Mat karma krit, mat paramaha. I consider that as my goal. Mat paramaha, mat bhaktaha, completely devoted, ananya bhakti, and sangha varjita, free from attachment, nirvairaha, without any enmity towards anybody. That is again this raga dvesha part of it, towards anybody. So these are the 5 things that he's talking about, which is given here. So dedicating all of one's activities to the Lord, mat karma krit, keeping the goal of life, mat paramaha, holding the attitude of being a devotee of the Lord, which is here mad bhaktaha, and then free of attachment, sangha varjitaha, nirvairaha, which is having no enmity. Such a person is such a person is a qualified bhakta or devotee of the Lord and is eligible for the path of bhakti yoga. So this is in some form, it is just like when I take Tylenol or something, that chemical which is there is a very small amount, which is just covered with all the other ingredients that is needed to make that capsule, right? So this is in one capsule, it is, one can say it's a definition of bhakti. And this elaboration of the shloka is what we will be seeing in chapter 12. And this is really the complete summary for and all these 5 steps, if you look at it, they're kind of interconnected, and they are also strengthening each of these, this. For example, obviously, if you look at having no enmity or hatred towards any person, now this is at the mind level, right? So just like how, for example, a child, if he has to drop any kind of attachment to his teddy bear or Barbie or anything, and to attach itself to a higher goal, one cannot do it just like that, right? So first I have to start with detaching myself from all kinds of material things. And I remember in the ladder example. So in order to climb a ladder, and as I put my leg up, I have to give up the lower rung. Only then I'll be able to climb up, right? So that's the same thing, here. You can see the progression, how I need to start working now, that in and through every action that I'm doing it only for that Lord, only for that Lord. And when I do that, then I'm really absolved of, anything that can happen. I mean, simple thing, for example, I have a party and then I'm making this beautiful kheer for everyone. And while I'm doing this, if I worry about, okay, what are people going to tell about this? Obviously my mind is now thinking about myself and how I'm doing it. But if I think I'm doing it for Krishna, Krishnarpanam, when I do this dedication and in and through every activity, what I'm doing, then automatically my mind is relaxed. My mind is, so again, we talk about mental health. This is such a beautiful way of just not thinking about the mind and allowing the mind to be always at the feet of the Lord. So that is why this first thing, Karma Lakshana Bhakti, is very important. So you can see Karma Yoga is a way to develop that bhakti, So this is the first level here. And without this step, the final step of bhakti itself is not possible. So it does start with Karma Yoga. So Karma Yoga involves bhakti. And this, it is, if you look at it, there are two stages to it. In the first stage, I believe that I am Sunitha, I am that karta, and whatever actions I do, it'll be converted to some fruit which I'll be benefiting. And when I benefit from them, I'm enjoying it. And I am a bhokta. Okay. Now, this phalam that I get from doing anything, let's say even I'm working at my work, I'm getting a promotion, so that promotion is a phalam, right? On the other hand, I'm working, but somebody else takes away the glory of my work. Okay, that's kind of an unfavorable phalam, right? So in Karma Yoga, most important is if I focus not on the bhokta. Okay, in karma, I am the karta, but I'm also the bhokta. So Karma Yoga is all about focusing on the karta part of myself, not on the bhokta or the enjoyer. But what do? We actually do things in such a way that I'm always a bhokta. I'm always looking at what I'm getting out of that action. Correct? So in Karma Yoga, most important is actually the focus should be on the karta part of it, not on the bhokta. Okay, so I dedicate all my actions at the feet of the Lord by this sankalpa. And sankalpa basically means, like even in puja, the very first step, what do we say? Mamopartha samasta duritakshaya dwara Sri Parameshwara Prityartam aham idam karma karishye, So I'm always trying to focus that I'm this karta, and who is that karta? That karta is dedicating all the actions at the feet of the Lord. And when I have that kind of bhavana, Karma Yoga itself becomes a form of bhakti. Okay, so then when I continue to do this, it takes me to the next level. So these are again the steps in the sadhana, right? So this upasana rupa bhakti in the form of meditation or dhyanam. Okay. So why do you think we need this? Because again, if I don't convert whatever I'm doing to a form of upasana, then what happens is, because I'm a person of the world, right? And in this, all the time, I'm interacting with the world. And this world is actually, when I'm working in the world with the material stuff, it has a way to bring me down. Okay. It is not elevating at all. I mean, and we are seeing that, isn't it? Again, I'm using the word of the internet. Prior to internet, when I had only my books, and I did my work. I went home. I did whatever I have to. I listened to music. I read my books. That was more than sufficient. But then what happened? Internet came. And then through the internet, so many other, the gadgets changed. The iPhones came up. And then from iPhone, now you have this two-layered, what is, now that is the big rage now, this Samsung's thing. So there is just no stopping at all, and so that is why we need to elevate ourselves, where in Karma Yoga, we are changing the focus to the karta from the bhokta part of it. And from the karta, really understanding who am I doing this whole thing. And that once I understand that I'm actually dedicating all my actions to the Lord, that is where it becomes complete upasana. So that is the second form of bhakti, is the upasana lakshana bhakti, And here I visualize the Lord within myself, and I learn to turn my mind inwards. So Shantakaram Bhujagasayanam Padmanabham Suresham, when I chant that, I'm trying to actually visualize that beautiful Lord in my mind, So if my mind is always in the form of the bhokta, where I'm always doing as what is in it for me, then what comes to my mind? It's only me. I'm the one. Me, the mother who has been cooking all this. I'm just waiting for my child to eat this well and make me happy, But if I have in my mind that whatever I'm doing is for that, Chaturbhuja, Narayana, that is the only Lord who is there in my mind. So a mind which is very extrovert can never do that. Therefore, I have to train my mind to keeping the image of the Lord in my mind, and that is upasana bhakti. Having that Shantakaram Bhujagasayanam Padmanabham, that Lord who's seated in the lotus, every time I think of when I say that shloka, that form of the Lord is in front of me, is in my mind. And that is the second level of bhakti. We are graduating from the karma bhakti to the upasana bhakti. And then finally to the final stage called the jnana lakshana bhakti. So this is once I have understood that I'm doing everything, my mind now is less cluttered. I'm no longer doing things in a way that I'm looking outside for happiness. I'm constantly, my mind is on that rupa. Now my mind is ready to study all the scriptures. And so the Jnana Yoga part of it. So this Vedanta Vichara, Jnana Yoga, so this form of bhakti is what, like even Gurudev Swami Chimananda, he called this Gita Jnana Yajna, which means study of scriptures as a form of a puja. So what am I doing? I start with karma, lakshana bhakti, then this upasana and this jnana. So this three ultimately stages beautifully, you'll see that. But that is also in this now, bhakti yoga doesn't mean that I just go to the temple, I pray, but it is actually karma plus that upasana out, so it starts with mat karma krit, so we have seen quite a few shlokas all the way from in the previous thing, that yat yat karma karoti tat tad akilam shambhu tat vardhan var, that then kayena vacha manasendriya, we say all these shlokas, but I need to bring that completely into my mind, so then this mad bhakta bhavaha, I'm, mad bhakta bhavaha, again, I know after this, we should have had Mat Paramaha, right? But the idea is, uh, I'm an extroverted person. I'm working in the world. Everything I'm doing is actions where I'm now changing. Now my goal now is not me. I'm doing it everything for that Lord, you know. So that is the aspect that, doing this as well. So from literally I'm going from, in Kathopanishad, you have prayers and shreyas. So prayers where I'm working for the material world, shreyas is my goal now is that ultimate Lord. And I'm seeking not this goal which is always changing, but I'm seeking something even beyond. I'm seeking the eternal aspect. So Mad Bhakta Bhava Ananyas Chintayantu Mam, chapter 9, so I'm looking for something which is more permanent, not something which is always, always changing. Like, for example, during Navaratri, I put all these shelves and then it goes back into, uh, it was a temporary structure, right? But I'm looking for something which is more permanent. Or even, I'm renting a house for a long time and then finally I buy my house. I'm looking for that permanent thing. So in everything, I'm looking for more permanence, which is more security, which is what Ananya's Chintayanto Mam is. I'm looking for security in everything. So I'm training my mind all the time by saying that ultimately my support, my ashraya, which today I'm placing my ashraya on money, I'm placing my ashraya on relationships. Everything is changing. Everything is changing. I need to clearly understand that in my mind and tell myself that my ultimate goal is that Lord. So that is Bhakti Yoga. And then Mat Parama Bhavaha, which is I become a complete uh, Tivra Mumukshu, Moksha is my only goal. There's nothing more than that. Everything I do, it's nothing but that realization, which is what I'm going through. And Sangha Varchitaha is that I learn to start, and as I learn actually to start to depend on that higher goal, then my attachment for all the lower things gradually drops. Like we said, children attached to toys, Bhajagovindam also, right? We have a beautiful shloka, Balastavat Krida Saktaha, Tarunastavat Taruni Saktaha. So I'm no longer, the more and more I attach myself to that higher goal, then what happens is I start detaching myself. It just doesn't bother me anymore if my neighbor is not keeping his lawn clean or whatever, or anything. It just doesn't bother me automatically because my mind is now focused on this. And automatically, Sarva Bhuteshu, with everybody, I have just love. And again, this aspect of love is so beautifully dealt in the 12th chapter. I can't wait to get to it actually, because it's a very calming, after this 11th chapter where, you are given this exposure to um, pretty much everything. Now, 12th chapter will calm us down and bring that love, nirvairaha sarva bhuteshu. I have no hatred for the world at all. You know, there is no raga, no dvesha with regard to every human being, animals, plants, everything. I have only pure love. So, in short, I develop viveka, I develop vairagyam, I develop mukshutvam, and that really is real bhakti, what you're seeing all this while. So, samamiti pandava. And if I have all this, a person will definitely come to me, because once he comes to me, he's saying, "Oh Pandava," because this is the last shloka of this chapter where Krishna is addressing Arjuna. He says, "Once you come to me, I have already created the necessary conditions for you to get your moksha, you know. So all your job," he's telling Arjuna, all your duty is you start working on your sadhana chatushtaya, right? So sadhana chatushtaya, Viveka Vairagyam, Shat Sampati, all those things. You just work on that and I will just take care of you completely. Okay. So with that, we have come to the last, we have finished this chapter. And this is just the Vishwa Rupa Darshanam. We started with, what is just a small kind of a table here. At the level of macrocosmic, at the level of individual, who are we? So in Nirguna Bhakti, for example, everything is nothing but that Brahman or Narayana, however way we want to look at, everything is completely unassociated Brahman in the macrocosmic, the entire world. But the individual thing, is Zyatman. Now that Brahman in the form of Maya, we have the creation, and the creation is nothing but Ishvara at the macrocosmic or Jiva. at the same creation at the causal level, which is at the level of what we would call this as what is it that drives things, is that desire, right? Desire form, which is in the seed form, which is at the cause. What is the cause for the whole thing? So it is, Ishvara Prajna. At the individual microcosmic, it's Prajna. At the mind level, when all the total minds are together, so that is the subtle aspect of it. So beautiful, our Hinduism has that depth of going into not the gross level which we are seeing, which is the Virat. Virat is a total cosmos, a universe with all the galaxies and the Milky Ways and the asteroids and the planets and the sun and the moon and the earth and the beings. All this is what Virat is all about. That same Virat at the individual level is the Vishwa part of it. But at the subtle level, it is total subtle part of every being coming together is the Hiranyagarbha. I remember Gita asked what Hiranyagarbha is. So this slide basically shows the relation of Hiranyagarbha to the entire thing. So Hiranyagarbha is all the total minds, total antakarana, whereas Taijasa is at the individual level. So this is the, so Vishwarupa basically comes from the association of that consciousness at the gross individual level. That is Vishwarupa. So even though the descriptions of the totality, the fact is it's being experienced by Arjuna, an individual who's living as Vishwa. So that is why this word Vishwa is brought here. Okay. So in summary, it's basically, we saw from the 7th chapter up to the 10th chapter was basically the development of the aspect of really who is that God? What is that Ishwarupa? Because chapters 1 to 6, was about the individual, where Arjuna was reminded of who he is as an individual. But 7 through 12 is about that Tattvamasi, what is Tat, about Ishvara. So this was very elaborately defined. And he defined essentially who is that Tat, or who is that God. God is nothing but Ishvara. Ishvara is the cause for the universe. Ishvara Jagat Karanam. So God is the cause of the universe. So that is the part which we got introduced in this whole section. And because we know that this cause, so whenever we think about, the cause of the universe, essentially there are two aspects that comes to our mind. One, of course, is the material cause. Like for example, if I have to create this iPhone, I need all the materials that is needed. I need the case, I need the battery, I need the cells, whatever, all this thing. But I also need someone to create it. Correct? So there is an intelligent cause. We call that as an intelligent cause and the material cause. Okay, so Ishvara is actually both of them. So, but of the two causes, we focus upon one cause, that is a material cause, in the 4 chapters. And we come to know that the material cause alone modifies and transforms to become the various things, which is then backed by this intelligent cause. Or, like for example, one gold alone is what we use to make the different bangles and necklaces and all that, right? But there's somebody who makes it. So that's the intelligent cause. So too, for example, you have the furniture, which is, the tables and the chairs and all that. The wood is a material cause, but the carpenter is the one who shapes into this. So behind all the names of, like in this Jagat, right? So there's only one material cause, and that is that Ishvara alone. And he points out to Arjuna that I am the material cause of the creation, not just one thing or anything. I'm the entire material cause is that. So Ishvara Jagat Karanam. So that, so Karanam and Karyam, are one and the same material. One is the Nama Rupa, whereas the Karyam is a manifested form of that Nama Rupa. So Krishna wants to say Ishvara in the world can never be different. When all the names and forms are resolved, like for example, if I take all my bangles and necklaces, I'm done with it. I just take it to the goldsmith and I say, do what you want. He won't even have any kind of sentimental value to it. He's just going to put everything into the fire, melt it, and make gold again, right? So ultimately, this whole world is nothing but that one form which is taken the different forms, one material that has taken the different forms of Nama, Rupa. And so Vishwarupa Darshanam is not an extraordinary object, but it is actually an extraordinary attitude towards our universe. And that is why when Arjuna could not understand, Krishna actually in the beginning, in fact, we will be summarizing the shlokas also. This is, I'm just bringing the concepts as a summary. Krishna actually, when Arjuna asked him about, show me your form, so Krishna just starts to verbalize. And then he realizes Arjuna is not able to get it. He doesn't understand what he's saying. So then he gives him that Divya Chakshu, which is basically an attitudinal change. We all have to work on our attitudinal change towards the universe. Today, I look at the universe as individual parts, and my vision doesn't go beyond what I see, maybe 10 feet or whatever. Beyond that, I don't even see there is something. But if I have this attitude that what I see in front of me and everything is nothing but that Ishvara Karanam, that is Divya Chakshu. It is essentially an attitudinal change. Like, for example, before I do a puja and I'm keeping this barfis and everything in front, earlier it was just something that I put the flour and the sugar and all that and I made the barfis. But then after I do the puja, my mind has, taken a form where I take that same laddu or thing as a prasad. And no longer is it just a laddu that I made, but it is something. So that attitudinal change is Divya Chakshu, which I need to do it. And that is, so in some ways, Krishna is showing how I developed this bhakti for Ishvara by understanding that the entire world, the Vishwarupa is. So Vishwarupa needs to be understood properly. And that is why Krishna gave us 4 chapters on training. He trained us through 4 chapters. And then finally, in the 11th chapter, he, by showing us what Vishwarupa Darshanam is, we get the culmination. And this is really what I need to keep in the background when I come into this 12th chapter. So shlokas 1 through 8, is all about Arjuna asking the question. And then 9 through 14 is Sanjaya, gives a brief description from verse 9. And I have another form where I will show you that whole thing also. So Sanjaya, he explains this. And then from this one, then 15 to 22 is really the appreciation for the Vishwarupa, which starts where Arjuna is wonderstruck because the creation is so beautiful. But, even though it is so beautiful, Arjuna's, he appreciates everything, but there is this, I mean, for all of us too, right? When we go to Grand Canyon or Niagara Falls or anything, for that one moment, our mind gets still, but immediately our mind goes to, oh, I wish, my people from India was here to see this. The second I do this, what happens? That aham bhava comes in. Oh, my people, I want my people to see this Niagara Falls and everything, right? So, but Krishna really takes that for that second, he takes Arjuna out of that aham and mama and he tries to give him that aspect there. And then from 23rd to 30th, Arjuna then sees the mouth of the Lord. He sees that whole Vishwarupa. And this is, in some ways, it represents the aspect of time also. And we saw all that. And then the, sorry, 30, mistake, 15, 22, 23, 30. 31 to 34, we saw this. Then 35 to 45 is the surrender, where Arjuna starts to understand about surrender. And then 46 to 55 is basically the conclusion of the teaching, where Krishna points that, Arjuna, you've had that rare opportunity of really seeing this Vishwarupa Darshanam. And all this was possible because you had complete trust in me. Now this, you can see how much Arjuna has graduated from chapter 2. In chapter 2, he actually gave up everything because he had a very strong ahankara bhava, But in chapter 11, we see that Krishna is really pointing to Arjuna, what does it take to give up all that and develop that bhakti? So 46 to 55 is actually the conclusion of the teaching. Arjuna is being pointed out by Krishna on the aspects of bhakti. And this bhakti is really the sadhana for us to evolution, for our evolution itself. And it starts with this Ekarupa Darshanam to Anekarupa Darshanam to Arupas, and 3 levels of bhakti we saw. And all this, so Krishna then, with that 54 shloka where he says Ananya Bhakti and everything. So here, this is the whole ultimate, conclusion of by shloka. We see this, so 1 to 4 is all about Arjuna asking the question. The Vishwarupa, Krishna just shows him that, but then he realizes that he's not, and then he gives this in verse number 8, the Divya Chakshu, and then Sanjay is replaying this, and Arjuna's reaction, the whole reaction of it. And then this is the part where he sees the mouth, and as reverse, the 2 examples where he gave the moth example, and then how the rivers are getting into the ocean, that part of it. And then he explains why he did that. And then Arjuna is then totally, he surrenders. You see that 41 to 46. And some of these verses are really worth going back, reading them again to, if you see it from the level of now bhakti part of it, And then Krishna is then saying why he did what he did by showing him the Vishwarupa. And then he withdraws it. And then he finally mentions that he wanted Arjuna to develop the bhakti part of bhakti yoga. And that is why he did this whole thing. So I want to know, I know we are already running late. It's already 3 minutes over. But does anyone want to comment on any particular shloka that appealed to you? Sorry, today was a little too heavy and I didn't give you a chance to speak at all. But I really wanted to focus on that 55, shloka number 55, and give a whole summary, So,
Hari Om, thank you so much for the summary. It was very good, and it was like it kind of got lost in your explanation. As you were saying that, when we make the things, the items, they're items, but once the puja is done, they become the prasadam. So as I was listening to what you were saying, that prasadam part of it kind of started sinking in, that this is all prasadam that Bhagwan has given us to learn and to, so, and for me, the cosmic purpose of just be my instrument, that is something that really, really, really is like that sits with me. That is something that that is what my
Mhm. Your takeaway.
my takeaway.
Yeah.
Hari Om. Thank you so much, though. Thank you.
Yogi Amma, you have something?
Hari Om, I have a question.
Yes.
How come Sanjaya also is able to see this Vishwarupa?
Because of his mind, he was a very pure soul.
Okay.
Yeah. Ultimately, that's what, I mean, here, I mean, compared to Arjuna, Sanjay was even more of a pure soul, so he was able to see it. In the case of Arjuna, Krishna had to kind of give him that Divya Chakshu to so that he can see it, so he can visualize.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So same thing for all of us too. We can also see if I develop that vision, and that vision is not something I have to go to a school and go for a course or anything. It's something I need to work upon myself. And the more and more I start to accept the world, actually,
Mhm.
even with what is happening in India today, if I'm able to accept it, there is, yeah,
Mhm.
every opportunity, everything is coming into our life only to develop that vision
Mm.
of acceptance.
Thank you.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, Anand.
Yeah. Thanks for the details and sharing the sloka, how each sloka describes, or how the set of slokas convey the meanings or bhakti or descriptions. Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome.
I see the sloka 32. Kalos miloka kshaykrit prabuddho lokan samaharto miha pravurta rutepi tvam bhavishyanti sarve yavasita prachani keshyodha. So I see the sloka and showing the Viswarupa, and then mentioning he's the time.
Time. Yeah, he's
Everything happens in time. Anything we can imagine, or we can see in the transaction world, or even Iha and Para both. It's everything happens in time. So Bhagavan reminds that he's that time, that kala.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Good. Good. So I think we can stop here. So we will meet next week, May 14th, Wednesday. Okay. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kasyat dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Stop.
Hari Om.